What would you do if the woman who cheated on you for 6 years showed up crying on your doorstep, the same week your own sister tried to move her kids into the house you built from nothing? Stick around because the ending is not what anyone in my family expected. I'm 34, a mechanic, and 2 years ago, I found out my entire life was a lie in about 4 seconds, the time it took to open a bedroom door. I'd come home early that day. It was our anniversary, and I wanted to surprise my wife, I'll call her Dana, with flowers and a bottle of wine we honestly couldn't afford. Instead, I got the surprise. Her in our bed with the guy who lived 2 doors down. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She just looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted something as routine as folding laundry. That was the moment our marriage actually ended. The divorce that followed just made it official on paper. I found out later it wasn't a one-time slip. There were months of texts, maybe longer than that. Her lawyer treated me like an obstacle standing between his client and my car, my savings, my dignity. My lawyer treated the whole thing like a scheduling inconvenience between him and his lunch break. But here's the part that still sits with me. It wasn't Dana's betrayal that broke something in me. It was my sister's. Her name's Rachel. 29, single mom of 2. Growing up, I was the one who covered for her, fixed her car for free more times than I can count, paid her rent twice when she got laid off, bought school supplies so her kids wouldn't show up empty-handed on the first day. I genuinely thought that meant something between us. When my marriage fell apart, Rachel picked a side. Not mine, Dana's, because Dana was taking her shopping, taking her out to dinners I could never have afforded to take Dana to, babysitting so Rachel could go chase some guy Dana swore was loaded. I called Rachel hurt, asking why she was still cozy with the woman who'd wrecked my marriage. Her answer, word for word, men never understand what women need. You probably drove her to it anyway. I hung up, blocked her number, and standing in my empty kitchen, I made myself a promise. I was going to build a life so good it would make every single one of them choke on their own words. So I packed what little Dana's lawyer let me keep and found the cheapest place available. It was the kind of apartment where you could cook dinner, watch TV, and use the bathroom without ever standing up. It smelled like the last tenant's cats. I sat on that lumpy mattress the first night and genuinely wondered how, 6 months earlier, I'd had a wife, a house, a sister I thought loved me, and now I had none of it. Meanwhile, social media became its own kind of torture. Dana and Rachel, suddenly inseparable, posting beach trips Dana and I used to talk about but never had the money for. Long captions about cutting out toxic people. Everyone in our circle knew exactly who that meant. My parents weren't much comfort either. When I told my mom I'd caught Dana in our bed with another man, all she said was, "Well, relationships are complicated, honey." That was the entire response. Not a question about how I was doing. Not even fake outrage on my behalf. The breaking point came at, of all places, a grocery store. Rachel spotted me buying instant noodles and gas station coffee. Pretty much my whole diet at the time, while she loaded a cart with things she couldn't have afforded a year before. She gave me this exaggerated pity face, said I looked terrible, then launched into how Dana's new boyfriend was so generous, took them all out to a nice restaurant the weekend before. Then smirking, she added, "You really should have paid more attention to her needs. Maybe his friend can afford better groceries than you." I left my cart sitting in the aisle and walked out without saying a word. That night, something shifted. I stopped feeling sorry for myself and made an actual plan. Not a vague, get better plan, a real one. Step 1, a house that was mine and only mine, one nobody could ever take away. So the grind started. Up at 5 a.m., 30 minutes in a gym that was basically a treadmill and some dumbbells crammed into a closet. At the garage by 6:30. Home some nights past 7. Then online accounting classes until my eyes gave out. Weekends, I picked up cash jobs in parking lots. Oil changes, brake pads, alternator swaps. Not glamorous. Not entirely legal, if I'm honest. But it added up fast. My boss, I'll call him Walt, noticed the change in me. First, he handed me ordering and scheduling. Within 6 months, I was essentially running his shop while he played solitaire in the back office. One night, locking up together, he asked what was driving me so hard. I didn't feel like unloading the whole divorce saga, so I just said, "Trying to buy a house." He nodded like that, explained everything, and told me it was a smart move. No landlord, no rent hikes, nobody to answer to. That one sentence of approval meant more than it probably should have, in a world where my own family made me feel like the villain for being upset about being cheated on. The classes nearly wrecked me some nights. I wasn't a great student even back in high school, and studying spreadsheets after 12 hours under a car hood is brutal. I failed a practice exam so badly my online tutor actually called to check if I was okay. But slowly, painfully, it started clicking. And the more it clicked, the more I noticed everything wrong with how Walt ran the place. Paper invoices, no real inventory tracking, prices set purely on gut feeling instead of actual numbers. One night after closing, I showed him a spreadsheet I'd built analyzing 6 months of jobs, margins by service, Repeat customers, which suppliers actually gave us decent deals. Basic stuff from my classes, honestly. But Walt looked at it like I'd performed a magic trick. Then he said something that changed everything. I've been thinking about selling when I retire. You interested in buying me out someday? I told him I didn't have that kind of money. He waved it off, said we'd figure out a payment plan, that he'd rather sell to someone who actually cared about the place than some chain that would gut it and fire everyone. That night, I went home and added a second goal to my list. Not just a house, the garage too. Around the 1-year mark, business was up 30% since I'd taken over the daily operations. I was saving everything that didn't go straight to rent or food, and word started filtering back to me, through my buddy Mike, who still had contacts on Dana's side, that things were quietly falling apart over there. The guy Dana had cheated with had already moved on, barely 2 months after our divorce finalized. The rich friend Dana promised to introduce Rachel to turned out to be broke, and actually tried to get Rachel to cover dinner. The shopping trips stopped. The vacations stopped. Dana had burned through most of her divorce settlement trying to hold on to a man who'd already left. Rachel, who'd quit her steady job chasing a payday that never existed, was suddenly struggling again. I didn't gloat when I heard it. I just kept working on whatever transmission was in front of me. But quietly, I won't pretend it didn't feel like something was finally balancing out. Not long after, Walt offered to accelerate our buyout. Instead of the 5 years we'd discussed, he wanted to do it in 2. Around that same time, I signed the papers on a modest 3-bedroom house. The same day, Rachel texted me from an unknown number, suddenly missing her brother, saying family should stick together. I didn't answer. Then, 3 days before I was set to move, Rachel showed up at my apartment. Not confident. Not smug like at the grocery store. Wrinkled clothes, a desperate look in her eyes. The exact expression she used to wear right before asking me for money. "Can I come in?" she asked. "What do you want, Rachel?" She tried the casual visit act first, said it had been forever, that she missed me. Then she noticed the moving boxes stacked behind me, and her whole face lit up like I'd handed her a winning lottery ticket. "You bought a house? How many bedrooms?" I already knew exactly where this was going. 3, I said. That's perfect, because, well, our landlord's selling the building. We've got nowhere to go. Maybe the kids and I could move in. Just until I find my feet again. No. You'd really let your own niece and nephew end up in a shelter? That selfish? I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "Where were you?" I said, "when I was sleeping on Mike's couch? When I lost everything? That's a you problem now." I closed the door on her foot until she finally moved it. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. Not just Rachel, but both of my parents. Rachel had gone straight to them with a story about her heartless brother refusing to help. My mom's voicemail. "I raised you better than this. Family helps family." My dad's message, worse. "A man takes care of his family. That's your responsibility." These were the same 2 people who'd told me to work things out with a woman who'd cheated on me for years and who hadn't checked on me once during the entire divorce. Now suddenly, I owed everyone something. Then came a text from Dana herself, weighing in on how I should be more supportive of Rachel. The hypocrisy was so complete I actually laughed reading it out loud. I replied once, "The man you married doesn't exist anymore. You made sure of that. Don't contact me again." Then blocked her. By that evening, the tone shifted from guilt-tripping to outright threats. My mom said she'd have to get involved. My dad said he'd come over and talk some sense into me. I called the closing agent and asked if we could move the date up. Explained there was family drama I wanted resolved before moving in. She managed to shift it 48 hours earlier. I told no one in my family. Moving day, I sat on my new back porch with a cold drink, looked up at the sky, and actually breathed for what felt like the first time in 2 years. Then I made one mistake. I posted a photo. Nothing flashy, just new chapter. But I knew exactly who would see it. The messages came fast. My dad said I'd disappointed him by flaunting success while my sister struggled. My mom said I was being needlessly cruel. Rachel posted a vague, furious rant online that everyone in our circle understood was about me. 3 days later, my mom called from a number I hadn't blocked yet. "Your sister and those children are about to be homeless, and you're sitting in a big empty house. It's a modest 3-bedroom, and it's not empty. I live here. You're a man. You can handle yourself. Rachel has children." And there it was, the exact double standard that had defined my entire relationship with my family. I was expected to absorb every hit alone, no complaints. Rachel got endless excuses. "I worked 80-hour weeks for 2 years for this house," I told her. "I took classes after 12-hour shifts at the garage. I lived somewhere the ceiling leaked whenever the upstairs neighbor showered. Nobody helped me through any of it. So no, she can't move in. She made her choice when she sided with Dana. This is what it costs. So you'll punish the children too? They didn't do anything wrong. They have grandparents with a 4-bedroom house. Why isn't she moving in with you and Dad?" A long pause. "Your father and I are too old to have children running around. We need our peace and quiet. Too old for their own grandkids? Not too old to demand I take on the burden instead." Then I need my peace too, I said. I've earned it after the last 2 years. This isn't over, she warned before hanging up. She was right about that. The very next day, I came home to find Rachel's car parked in my driveway. Her, the kids, and garbage bags full of clothes sitting on my front porch, loud enough for the whole street to hear. We got evicted, she announced, using her own children as a shield in front of the neighbors. Get in the car and leave. You'll really call the cops on your own sister? With her kids sitting right here? Call Dana, I said. You two were shopping buddies, remember? Her face soured instantly. We're not really talking anymore. Shocking, I said. She dropped the act completely after that. Called me a piece of work. Said I was still the same loser Dana cheated on. That it was no wonder Dana strayed with someone so cold and selfish. Whatever guilt I had left evaporated right there on my own porch. I told her to get off my property or I'd actually call the police. Something in my expression must have convinced her I meant it, because she finally started gathering the bags. The next morning, I filed a no trespass order and had security cameras installed across the whole property. Let her try another ambush. I'd have police there before she got comfortable this time. Then, near midnight about a week later, I came home to find Dana sitting on my front steps. Not the polished woman from the old Instagram photos. Smaller somehow, unraveled, makeup smudged down her face. I didn't know where else to go, she said. I almost laughed. Not my problem, please. Just talk to me. About what? The cheating? The money you burned chasing a guy who left you the second things got hard? Or how you talked my own sister into hating me? Pick one, she started crying. Said she'd been stupid. Said we'd had something real. Asked if I ever missed it? No, I said, and shut the door. 2 days after that, my parents showed up unannounced, walking straight past me into my own living room like they still had some claim to it. Your sister needs help, my dad said. A good son would step up. Funny, I said. I don't remember either of you stepping up for me. You're a man. She has children, and I told her to go to you. But your peace and quiet matters more than her kids, apparently. My dad called me selfish. Said money had changed me. Said I wasn't the son they raised. You're right, I told him. I'm not. That guy would have let himself get walked on forever. That guy's gone. You should probably go too. They left without another word. I locked the door behind them and just stood there for a second, letting it all settle. I wasn't their son anymore. Not the version they wanted. The one who quietly absorbed every consequence so everyone else could stay comfortable. And for the first time in 2 years, standing alone in a house nobody could ever take from me, with nobody left who could talk me back into shrinking myself, I actually felt free. A few weeks after that, Walt finally handed me the keys to the shop, officially, on paper, my name on the lease instead of his. He shook my hand a little longer than a normal handshake needed to be and said, Your old man doesn't know what he's missing. I didn't say much back. I just nodded and got to work because that's what I'd learned to do with every hard feeling by that point. Put it into the next task in front of me. Mike stuck around through all of it, longer than anyone related to me by blood. He helped me move furniture, sat with me the night I filed the no trespass paperwork, and never once asked me to prove I deserved his loyalty. When I told him what my dad said about me not being the son they raised, Mike just laughed and said, Good, that son let people walk all over him for 30 years. This one owns a garage. I saw my niece and nephew again eventually, just not the way Rachel wanted. About a year later, she reached out one more time, not asking for money, not asking to move in, just asking if I'd come to my nephew's school thing because she couldn't afford to get him what he needed for it. I thought about it for a long time. In the end, I went, quietly, sat in the back, and afterwards slipped him some cash for what he needed without making it a whole conversation with Rachel. I didn't do it for her. I did it because those 2 kids never chose any of this, and some part of me still remembered being the uncle who used to be trusted. Rachel and I still aren't close. I don't know if we ever will be, but she stopped showing up unannounced, stopped sending the guilt trip texts, stopped acting like my house was some kind of shared family asset she was owed a room in. Maybe watching her plan collapse in real time taught her something. Maybe she just ran out of angles to try. Either way, the distance suits me fine. Dana, as far as I know, moved out of state a while back. Mike still hears the occasional update through the grapevine, but I stopped asking. Not out of bitterness. I just genuinely don't need to know anymore. There's a strange kind of peace in realizing someone who used to control your entire emotional weather doesn't even register on your radar these days. My parents and I talk maybe twice a year now, mostly logistics, birthdays, the bare minimum required to still call it a relationship. It's not what I pictured for my 30s. I always figured I'd have Sunday dinners, a sister who called just to talk, parents who showed up for the good stuff, not just to collect on old debts. But I've made peace with the version of family I actually have instead of the one I kept hoping would show up. These days, the garage runs itself most weeks. I hired 2 more mechanics. One of them a kid barely out of trade school who reminds me a little of who I used to be before all this. Eager, a little lost, looking for someone to tell him he's doing okay. I try to be that for him the way Walt was for me. I still sit on that back porch most nights with a drink, looking at a house that's entirely, completely mine. Not because anyone gave it to me, not because I inherited it or married into it or got lucky, because I built it. One 12-hour shift and one failed practice exam and one slammed door at a time. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting my family off the way I did. I always give them the same answer. I didn't cut anyone off. I just stopped volunteering to be the only one who paid a price for everyone else's choices. There's a difference, even if it took me 2 brutal years to learn it. If you take one thing from all this, let it be that. The people who show up the moment you start winning were never actually there for you. They were there for what you could still be useful for. Remember who stood beside you in the shoebox apartment, and remember who only knocked once there was something worth taking.